Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of Minions of the Zoo. I'm your keeper, Skep, and with me I have Minion Sora Luna,
Good evening.
Prospero,
Hello.
Serenity Star,
Howdy.
and the Harry Channel.
Good evening.
And friends, a couple of good friends with us this evening along for the ride, Dr. Functional.
Hello.
And Irate Prostate.
Hey.
Hey, just we7. So that's kind of an auspicious number. I entitled the stream Turn and Face the Strange Changes from the lyric of the David Bowie song from many years ago, which I still think is a pretty underrated song. And I had an interesting day today. I thought I'd start off with maybe telling the story of that, and we can kind of ease into the affairs of the world and how everybody else's day is. As you know, I have a grandson who is, he's had some problems. He's been in trouble with the law. He has a conviction, has felony conviction. He's 17 years old. Trying to get him graduated through a special program at school. And as a result, I have to drive him to this special school that's about 30 miles from my house every morning. And so I get up and I drive him to the special school. And he spends the day there, and then I go and pick him up. So this is 30 miles there, 30 miles home, 30 miles there, 30 miles home. Okay, 120 miles. It's only for a couple of weeks I can do this. But today is the day when I have to go and get my laboratory work done and get my physical at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Dallas. Now, of course, the place where I have to drive this kid is nowhere near Dallas. It's near Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. So it's 50 miles from Dallas. No problem. Drive the kid to the school, and then I drive directly to the VA hospital, park the car, and get my lab done. But of course, my appointment isn't till 3 or 4 hours from then. So I've got enough time to go home, get a couple of chores done, get some things happening, get back in the car, and drive back. And so I done all this driving. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I've already driven 100 miles. Had my arm stuck, got the kid delivered, and I'm back home doing things. And time for my appointment, go to my appointment, and met by a doctor who is really, her head is, in another place completely. I mean, she's just going through the motions of an annual physical, asking the right questions and writing my responses down, and me telling her what I think she ought to prescribe, and her saying, "No, we're not going to do any of that." And so that was great. And then, of course, they messed up. They made a mistake and forgot to draw. When they had my veins open, they forgot to draw a tube to do a certain type of test that I need for old men. And so I had to go back to the lab, get stuck again. Of course, that was a 40-minute wait at the lab, naturally, because it couldn't have been one of those things where I just walked up and, so anyway, hanging there in the COVID-infested, hospital. Fortunately, I've had my vaccination, so nothing to worry about, right? Anyway, except all the iatrogenic illnesses that are wandering around the thing. Good thing I'm not paranoid. So I go back and, oh, look at that. It's time to go pick up the kid from the special school. So I go pick up the kid from the special school. And I say, how's school going? Oh, it's okay. Okay, what'd you learn today? I don't know. Okay. What was the name of the course that you're in? Microeconomics. Okay. I said, what'd you learn about microeconomics? Nothing. I said, why? Well, I can't assimilate anything. I said, okay. Why can't you assimilate anything? I don't know. I just can't. That's what talking to this kid is like. And I'm like, okay. That's great. So that was inspiring. I get home. I'm just about to put my feet up and start searching through Twitter and get some topics for tonight's show and so forth. And the wife calls. Hi, I'm by the side of the road. I hit something in the road, and the car's broken.
Oh no.
Ooh.
Okay,
Oh,
no problem.
Where are you, Tulsa?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where are you? Well, yeah, she was actually was about 15 miles away from the house. But get back in the car. Well, and of course, it's rush hour traffic. Fortunately, I'm going against it, so it actually wasn't that terrible.
Oh, okay.
And just about the time I get there, a guy had stopped and helped her, and was in the process actually of changing the tire. Anyway, long story short, I followed her back home. So now I get to do all that. I get to go get the car fixed tomorrow. And she takes my car and does her thing with that. So it's been kind of an exhausting, irritating day. And I've really been looking forward to sitting down, hanging with my friends, and talking about the state of the world. And as I was looking through the state of the world, getting ready for the call this evening, the show this evening, I thought, things are kind of in a state of flux. And I think people are getting tired of being lied to. And I think they're becoming sensitive to the idea that they are being lied to, that the mainstream media really does have a narrative and an agenda that they're foisting on America and the world. And that in places like Britain, they're tired of having their free speech stepped on. They're tired of having their little girls groomed. And in China, they're tired of having social credit scores determine whether or not their kids can go to a certain college or if they will be allowed to go on vacation. And other people back in the West are looking at China and saying, I'm not sure that we want that for our future. And all of this juxtaposed against the loony left and Hollywood and all the crazy people making the crazy woke statements, the insanity of baseball being so reactive and that they pulled their all-star game, and then Biden stupidly saying, that's a good idea just about the time the world decides, no, that's a terrible idea. And Biden is going to destroy himself in spite of himself, in spite of his handlers. When they were planning all this, I think they had a meeting and said, okay, we've got this. We can control him. We can control what comes out of his mouth. They can't, and they're not. And he is going to end up he will drive this wagon off the road. I promise you. It's going to derail. And when it does, that'll be when he resigns, by the way, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, just some speculation for you all. And does anybody have any reaction to any of that, or anything else that they would like to report about their reaction to anything in the news or how their day went?
I do have actual numbers for ratings, for at least
For what?
For CNN and the rest of them.
Okay.
CNN is just averaging over 1.1 average viewers, with only 269,000 in the key demo. They're at the bottom of the barrel.
1.1
average viewers during prime time.
Only one viewer in the world?
1.1 million.
Oh, 1.1 million. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
I thought it was worse than what I thought. Okay.
I thought I did. It's
okay. All right. So 1.1 million. All right.
I like the other answer better.
Yeah.
They're only getting 269,000 in the key demo that they're going for. They've dropped 64% in the key demo and 47% in total primetime viewers. For the total day, the network dropped 50% in total day viewers and 65% in the key demo compared to last year this time.
Just for as a cross statistic you can keep in the back of your mind, Steven Crowder has about 4 million subscribers, Prospero?
5, I think, at this point.
Yeah, something 4 or 5 million. So anyway, keep going.
On average, MSN was getting 997,000 viewers for the week. This is all for week of March 15th, but this gives you an idea of the breakdown.
MSNBC?
Yep. Also received its smallest total day audience of the year. but it still outperformed CNN in the total day and primetime views. But it fell behind in the key demo. And Fox News emerged on top again for total day and primetime, both in the key demo and total viewers for the week of March 15th. During primetime, Fox News averaged 2.3 million total viewers, 351,000 in key demo. And that's in comparison to MSNBC's 1.7 total, 225,000 in key demo, and like I said, CNN's 1.1 million total and 269,000 in the key demo.
Are they using the same key demo between Fox and the other networks?
Yes, at least this source is. They stated that they are.
Because I know there's a certain amount of it that's advertiser speak, right? So sometimes when you say the key demo, it's just 18 to 35 because they have disposable income and so you want to take that disposable income from them. But I can easily imagine somebody like Fox going, no, we maybe have a different key demo.
Yeah, they do actually
skews a little older, a lot of cruise ships.
Well, it's like they actually also have comparison of, I don't like the use of this word, but they have comparison of CNN and MSNBC and Fox News's ratings on the week of the insurrection as well as the week of Trump's impeachment. They have the average total viewers on those comparisons. So at that in the insurrection, CNN was at top 2 million plus total viewers.
Well, taking this out of the statistical realm and into the conclusion realm, the thing that strikes me is that doesn't seem like very many people watching.
Nope.
I mean, you got to figure there's probably potentially at least 50 to 100 million eyeballs who could watch that, just depending on how you want to slice that salami. And I mean, I'm leaving that number having a huge range, but I figured that's just like an order of magnitude. It's 100 million type of number that's probably available to be conquered. And if they're only penetrating that by 1%, that is in nobody's estimation any kind of market domination or even market penetration at all.
Well, TV news has been losing eyeballs to platforms like YouTube consistently.
Sure.
And in the United States, I mean, obviously this isn't, it's 126 million unique viewers from the US on YouTube. It's grown by about 15 from the previous year, etc.
Well, I mean, if you're of a liberal frame of mind, going to stuff like Getty and Crystal Ball on The Hill or Politico is going to give you better quality news. It'll have a liberal slant to it, but it'll be of better quality and more complete factuality than the groomed crap that CNN excretes.
Oh, definitely. Like I can't even watch most of that stuff.
I mean that's what I would surmise, but I might be wrong. It's probably worth discussing.
Well, I mean, it's one of those like you brought up, like Steven Crowder gets more than that on most of his live streams.
Yeah,
and that's not including
I'm
total views.
I'm glad you brought that up. In fact, I want to look at that really quick.
He broke the internet this morning.
He usually
I heard that he broke the internet. I heard that he had to pull his stream down and start it over because things got real boggy and slow. And
we had over 250,000 people logging on at the same time.
Yeah, and YouTube's like, we don't know what to do because we can't silence him because then we lose ad revenue, but we want to silence him because he's talking shit.
Yeah, they're having a hard time with Crowder.
Well, they've demonetized him completely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's in the naughty box now.
You can still
Now, when
make ads
he is
from the
demonetized,
account.
when he is demonetized, does that mean that
BP.
Hey, BP.
if he's demonetized, hi BP, if he is demonetized, does that mean that YouTube also collects no ad revenue, or does it
No.
mean
No.
that YouTube?
They changed
Or does
rules.
it, hang on, hang on.
He knows the answer to this fucking question.
No, I really don't. Or does YouTube still use the same ads and collect the ad revenue themselves? In other words, are they cutting ads off of it, or are they keeping the ads on but just taking the revenue away from Crowder?
Bing,
Second
bing,
one.
bing, bing, bing,
They
bing.
keep the ads on and take the revenue away from Crowder.
Yeah,
Really?
they
Yep.
changed the policy not too long ago, where they said it doesn't matter if you're demonetized or not; they can still put ads on your stuff.
Hell, there have been ads on some of my shit, and I don't even have I'm
Yeah.
not even at 1,000 subs yet.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was what started a hullabaloo. I think 4 or 5 months ago was a bunch of creators found out about that and got real fucking pissed, which I don't blame them. But yeah, they changed the rules that basically said just because you're demonetized doesn't mean that they're not going to run ads.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a new level of
Yeah.
scummy.
Not
And they
suitable
come like
for your
taxation.
advertisers.
Without representation.
I mean, essentially,
No,
it's kind of similar.
it's more akin to intellectual property theft.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was-
Funny,
They're,
we're
they're violating their own terms of service.
who's the masters of that? Who's been the big bogeyman that we've been all talking about for the last little while? They're learning.
And you know, there's another funny thing about the news media that I find interesting, and it's been really evident during this pandemic, and that is their lack of knowledge on how to run a freaking podcast setup. Like, us sitting here right now on the Minions of the Zoo channel, all of us have better sound.
Oh yeah.
Thing.
That's a really good point.
Yep.
I could not believe that they could not get their sound under control.
Yeah, it's like, dude, just go on Amazon, buy yourself a fucking snowball.
Because you have better camera work and audio work than the United States federal fucking government when they're trying to broadcast from a Senate hearing or something.
Yeah.
Or just hire a stupid YouTuber to do it for you.
Well, except for
Right?
Carl Benjamin, because he still can't. He still boomers his sound every single time.
Bless
I don't know
his
how he
heart.
manages it.
Hey,
Bless his heart.
I'm not throwing stones on that shit.
It's those government union contracts. You think these guys know what the hell they're doing? No, they know how to plug in a cable.
The
Yeah.
greatest thing about Sargon is that he has hired help, and he still boomers his sound.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
You know, instead of them just setting it up, testing it, and saying, "Okay, Carl, come in. Don't touch
Anything.
No, we've unplugged
Don't
the
even look
mouse.
at it,
The
Mom.
mouse is hidden in another room. You just sit here and look pretty for the camera, okay? But how can I? No. We'll take care of it.
Look pretty and say nice, eloquent things.
Yeah.
And we will click the buttons for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
We've
it
given you
also-
a pair of lapel mics here.
Yeah.
Even if one goes
When in
out,
doubt.
we can just switch to the other one. It's fine. Sorry, I
there's
didn't mean
also-
to get us off on that tangent. I want to go back to the original once we're done having fun. The original
Yeah,
question.
no, and go ahead, Harry. Take us back there.
I'm not okay. This is just sort of a thought experiment because I didn't plan this out. But Biden's kind of lack of awareness and slow response. He's not what you'd say quick-witted these days.
Oh, come on, man.
Whenever
Yeah,
was
I
it?
know. But so what these people have done is they've ginned up all of this frothy anger amongst people by dividing people into different groups and just doing something that nobody in their right mind has done for a long time. I mean, people have played with pitting groups against each other and racial division, but it's been a long time since anybody's actually thought it was a good idea to really get people pissed off and just start turning them against each other.
That's a dangerous thing because you lose.
It is a
control
dangerous
eventually.
thing, and it's lots of groups pitted against lots of groups,
Yep.
and everything is an existential threat. It's like if we don't solve the climate in 12 years minus 3, because that's how long Greta Thunberg has been telling us it's a problem, we're all going to die. If we don't, do this and that and the other thing, we're all going to die. Everything is an existential threat, and the amount of cortisol is turned up to 11 for everybody. I think that even if Biden was at the top of his game, things are spinning so quickly. I don't know if 90% of politicians could actually kind of keep up with the rate at which things are changing. Because from the time he gets his morning briefing and they say this is the approach we're going to take, the public opinion could have already pivoted on something like the MLB thing, and it's just gotten away from him before he even realizes. By the time he's stepping in front of the mic in the afternoon, he's course committed on an obsolete point of view, because the weather vane only swings so quickly.
And may I posit the theory that the politicians have kind of been part of the force that has pushed that weather vane on its insane swing across the barn roof, to carry on the analogy. Because if you look at this COVID bullshit that we're going through, and we're locking down again. Okay, you can come out. No, we're locking down again. Okay, you can come out. No, we're locking down again. They're causing, if you look at people's behavior, even people who you would generally consider people with their heads on straight, are starting to exhibit signs of mental health issues. Because we are, like it or not, a part of the great ape family, and they are social animals. Now, what happens in any scientific experiment when you isolate social animals?
They
Not
get
good things.
They go batshit.
Yep.
They die.
And then they die. And this is what the politicians have done. They've basically pushed that weather vane that Harry mentioned. They've basically went up to it and went...
I think another... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I just think that before, what was the weather vane? Well, it was teams of people analyzing data from the last, say, 3 days, trying to gauge which way the wind is blowing. Today, it's almost exclusively Twitter.
Yep. Which is stupid to do.
That's a huge part of the problem.
And then and it's really interesting because there are so many people that I've spoken to in my real life recently that
You talk to people in real life?
I do. I have to.
What a weirdo.
Unfortunately.
Very unfortunately. 'Cause sometimes the people in your real life do and say some really dumb shit.
Oh, I swear. You have no idea.
I do.
Actually, you do. Actually, you do.
I really do.
Yeah, you really do.
And so, and I kind of hate doing it, but at the same time I don't, because I'm looking at people like my mom, and I'm going, do you remember, a few years ago when we started doing this YouTube stuff and calling out bullshit? You were just calling us, conspiracy theorists and right-wing, touting right-wing talking points. And do you see? Do you see it now?
Yeah.
and
does she?
And she kind of does. She's starting to see, she's not quite as the same place that I am and at Pink Hollow is, but she's like, no, these lockdowns are stupid, and there's just no rhyme or reason, especially now that there are vaccines available. Why are we not trying to get those to more people? Oh no, everyone go back inside again.
Well, it's kind of funny because people make fun of the redneck and the hillbilly in the country kind of states, like the Dakotas and my state and all this kind of stuff. But my state, we only closed businesses for 2 weeks. I've been hanging out with my friends physically since August of last year.
Yeah.
And it's in Texas, it's a similar vein. North Dakota or South Dakota, I can't remember which one. It's the same thing.
Dakota.
South Dakota. And it's we're the ones keeping our mental health, either mostly because we're already crazy, if you want to go the hillbilly route. But it's one of those, it's like, we're the ones staying sane. Like, my state's still at the head of the curve of the vaccine stuff. And it's like, we're the ones who are going to survive this. Like,
Yeah,
you may want to think about that, guys.
You also have to look at the other two of the big three. Sorry, BP.
No.
Canada and the UK, both sides of the aisle are on board with this shit.
Yeah.
Unlike we're in the United States, thank God you guys have fucking states' rights, because it would be the same fucking bullshit.
It would.
Yep.
And I think just in the grand scheme of things, people just don't want to fight. A mass majority of people, yeah, they're pissed off. Yeah, they think this is stupid. You think they're going to get off their ass and do anything?
Well,
Even
the thing
people-
is,
even
People are also tired too.
Yeah,
That's
they're
the thing.
tired.
People with reach, you know, your Sargons, your Tim Pools, whoever, your Crowders, they're all they do is kvetch on the internet. They're not going to get off their ass and actually physically do something.
That's a good
when
point.
they do, they royally fuck it up.
Yeah. And, yeah, I heard Prospero trying to weigh in here. What were you thinking, Prospero?
well, here's the thing. The boomers, my generation,
Pepperidge Farm generation.
we were the ones most at risk.
Yeah.
So we were the ones that really did need to lock down, so to speak. But unfortunately, too many of us hovered over our children and wrapped them in cotton batting by comparison to our own upbringings.
Not wrong.
And they became frightened. Now, you know, when you convince everyone that grandma will die if you see her, and you don't think outside of the box about any of this, everybody gets in a swivet very, very quickly. And a lot of people did. I mean, I found consuming media last spring. Harry and Skep can attest to this, because in private conversations, I was doing a lot of yelling about wanting information. All I wanted was information, because everything else was making me anxious. I mean, I could feel it. I could feel my own tension level going up.
Yeah.
My own concern, my own paranoia about the bug. You know, is the bug going to come in on the box? Should the box sit on the porch for this long? Should you be wearing gloves and the mask and the my God, you know, going to the grocery store, you look like fucking Mata Hari, except in hazmat gear. You know, and it was, you know, I'm on a super secret mission to get that bag salad. And it was, I mean, it was like these stealth runs to the grocery store at 8:00 in the morning. And concern over, do you buy fresh produce? How long does this all I wanted to know was how long that fucking virus lasted on inert surfaces. Yeah.
You know, and there was a long period where that information, first of all, there was a debate about what the correct information was. And it was really only when the studies became public information, you know, that we realized that, hey, surfaces aren't nearly the problem that we thought they were.
And how many people are going to read all of those?
And how many months, though, did we go worrying about that?
Yeah.
How many?
About
How
4.
long?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we left packages outdoors in the air for 2 hours. Then when we bought canned goods at the grocery store, we brought them home and we fucking washed the cans. You know, people were, you know, if you were genuinely concerned. And, you know, I understand why people came to believe the whole thing was a hoax.
Yes.
I do. I understand how they came to believe that the virus.
It's irrational, but
Right.
it's understandable. It's a frustration conclusion. It's not
Yeah.
really reasonable. It's not based on logic or anything like that.
It's
but
a stick your fingers in the ear, la 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 la. I've heard all the noise and it's freaked me out, and I've got brain lock, so I'm going to pretend that none of this is true. And that, you know, it's like, no, you're wrong. This thing is real. It is real. It's going to kill people, just like pneumonia and the influenza do. And so a certain measure of caution is recommended. But mask theater and some of these other things that it's almost like you couldn't even pick a centrist line in it. If you criticized masks, people were like, you don't believe the virus is real. It's like, of course I know the virus is real. I just know that the little bandana you're wearing is going to stop some large droplets, and that might help, viral load, and beyond that, fuck you.
Yeah.
6 feet is going to do you way more good than a mask.
Bingo.
Don't run up people's asses. I mean...
But the people were a long
arrows-
time coming to that conclusion.
Yeah, but the arrows in the grocery store I mean, I can remember being in the grocery store, starting up an aisle the wrong way, Cree going, no, you got to go down to this. And I was like, oh, for Christ's sake. I mean, this is insane.
Mm-hmm.
This, I cannot modify. I'm old. This dog requires a long time to teach a new trick. And I'm not modifying my behavior like that. I refuse to. I'll wear your fucking mask because I don't want, number one, I don't want the store to get in trouble. I don't want people to get bitched at, who have nothing to do with my choices. I understand why they're doing it. And I don't crawl right up next to people. I mean, I didn't go out of my way to provoke people. But, genuinely, for a few weeks, I found myself frightened. And I didn't like that because I consider myself to be, pretty much fuck-free.
Yeah.
And then the information began to come in, things that we could at least sift through. Because, oddly enough, this is an aside, and then I'll shut up. There was a study done where they showed people very unpleasant images of the Holocaust, and then they sent people into a room to talk about it, and they sent another group in to do math problems. And this can only be self-reported. But, looking at extremely upsetting images will stay with you. It will agitate you. It will upset you. And the people who spent the time talking about the images they saw reported about 30 minutes later that they were still highly agitated. The people that had been sitting and doing math problems reported that their agitation had subsided.
Interesting.
And I tried that in a real life setting, in the hospital when my father was dying. He was particularly restless, and I attempted to distract him by talking about math science things, very left brain thing. And that's when he told me that, like if the square of a number, like the square of 12 is 144, but you don't know what the square of 13 is, add 12 and 13 together, add it to 144, that'll give you the square of 13. And then he proceeded to do that through like 3 or 4 steps, and by that point he had sat down and he wasn't pacing the room, and he wasn't anywhere near as anxious. And I said, well, I can't prove it. That was only one test subject. But the distraction required to do higher function thinking as opposed to emotive thinking. It makes sense to me that it would have a calming effect, that your emotional state, you would still remember everything you saw, but that you weren't as agitated.
Yeah, because you're not dwelling on it. You're concentrating on something else.
Because anxiety is a bitch.
Unless it's postmodern math. Because if you tell me 2 + 2 = 5, you're not going to calm me down.
Yeah.
It's like, I will cut you.
No, I will watch Night and Fog before I'll listen to anybody try to explain that to me. And I've seen that movie twice and don't want to see it again. But, illogic will infuriate me more than upsetting imagery will. But
Richard Burton's brilliant in that movie.
What?
1984.
Oh, okay. I said Night and Fog.
Oh.
It's a very,
I'm
very
Norm
different.
McDonald now, or what's that guy's Norm Crosby?
Yeah, very different
Or
film.
Norm
Crosby.
MacDonald. Yeah.
Night and Fog.
Norm Macdonald is also awesome,
Yes.
but he's not the one you're looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Norm
that,
Crosby is too, though.
But I think as far as how, to kind of go to what BP's point was about how frantic everything was, and the performance art of the first they say we do, then we don't, then they say we do again, then we don't, then we do, we don't. You know, like Fauci flopping around like a dying halibut on a dock.
And people willing to go believe him after all of this.
Truly. And the press with all their noise. I mean, I found my focus in looking at the extreme reactions of people and congratulating myself that I talked myself off that ledge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a lot of self-congratulation in that.
Any full life contains that.
But what I mean is, I will freely admit, I was
There was some
embarrassed by
shoddy
how
Freud.
anxious I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed by that because I consider myself to be a reasonably logical person who is pretty good at suppressing overreaction.
Well, you've had a boot on your neck for 2 years, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, and I mean I had reason for genuine concern for my age group, my peers, my cohort, my spouses, my friends.
I was gonna say, when did you get another
Your spouse is
Well,
He's the Mormon,
It's been a
obviously.
boring year, okay?
She's got a whole harem back home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Getting
Free would like to know.
interesting.
Cree needed a pool boy.
Exactly.
But
Whoa.
the
Wow.
That accelerated quickly.
yeah,
Giggity.
thank God he never listens to these. he listens to me all the time anyway with a whole lot of
I bet he is a groovy dude.
He puts up with me.
Yeah.
I think he's awesome because I don't even like me, and I have to live with me too. I just, this lockdown in Ontario, BP.
Oh God! Like
I'm like, really seriously, you guys are pulling this shit again.
I've decided if they put schools out again, that I am not making Alex sit on a computer for 6 hours.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I will teach him the lesson plan, but we will do it in a different way. I am not going to make him sit on a Chromebook for 6 hours while his teacher regurgitates things like procedural writing and bullshit like that. I will freaking yeah.
He's 6 years old now. You can give him some clothes, a pup tent, and a knife, and go dump him off in the northern Ontario wilderness.
Yeah, I just this is a point where I'd like to interject. This is the learning that this 18-year-old I guess he is 18. 18-year-old grandson of mine, step grandson of mine, is going through. Here's his school that I'm driving him, 25 miles one way to get to school. He sits in a classroom that's basicly a double wide,
Okay.
one of these temporary buildings that they have, and there's 3 or 4 other students in this special class, and there's the teacher. The teacher is there to open the buildings and make sure the computers are running. That's all she does. She doesn't speak to the students. She does not answer their questions. Okay, if they have a question, they're supposed to type it into a chat box that's on the computer, and one of the teaching assistants that is at some remote place will respond to their question. So they sit and listen to these lectures like on microeconomics. Wait, this gets better. He sits and listens to this thing on microeconomics. And if he has any questions or doesn't understand, he's supposed to type in something into the chat box. Now, in reality, what he's doing is he's playing games on his phone, which he has with him, right? And just letting the thing run. I'm pretty sure that
Playing
that's all that
games,
happened.
Scrolling through TikTok.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, he's big into TikTok. So anyway, the woman there has absolutely no responsibilities. And she is a teacher at one of the schools. I mean, she's probably knocking down $60,000 a year to come in there and just sit. And then at the end of the day, she locks up the building and goes home. She isn't even on time. Yesterday, we had to wait in the car for 15 minutes for her to show up.
Jesus Christ.
So she got there after all the students did. One of the mothers was really pissed. Anyway,
God, I'd be so
the-
embarrassed.
the
Mhm.
the interesting thing is that he finished his unit last week on I forget what it was. It was history, was world history, and I'd been asking about that. I said, "Did you learn anything about world history?" No, I don't assimilate that stuff. And I said, "What kind of tests do you take?" There are no tests. I said, "Really?"
So how do
He
you
said, "I said, how do you know when you're done?" He says it says end of module.
Mm,
And I said, okay, when you get to the end of module, is that when the teacher talks to you? No, the teacher doesn't talk to us. Okay, so who covers the recap of the material? And this child said, what does recap mean? And I said, okay. What happens at the end of the module? The next module starts. And I said, so there's no test at all? No, there's no tests. And I said, how do they give you your grade? He said, it's on a printout. And I said, no. What I mean is, how do they evaluate your performance so you get a grade? Oh, they just give us a grade.
Holy shit.
How many modules did you do? That's your grade.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's it. And this is how they are. And at the end of this, he will get a high school diploma, just like I got,
That's terrible.
just like you got.
This has to be the best way for minimal effort I've ever heard of to get people like through the system.
That's
Well, I mean,
exactly what it is.
It's horrible, but well done.
Yeah.
They
False
want-
racism of low expectations.
Well, it's
man.
also the fact that this is like teachers are still asking for more money.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're right.
There's-
What were you gonna say, Harry?
Well, it's forced matriculation for one
Yeah.
thing, and the other thing is they get, I don't know if they still call it ADA, but there used to be an allowance for every ass you put in a chair at the school per day.
Yes,
the
that
school
still
gets a
exists.
certain amount of money. So it's a money-making thing for them, and I'm sure that,
Exactly.
since he's in a special class, they get a different pile of money that's better
Oh yeah.
than the other pile of money.
He's in the class called he's going to be the Army's problem soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, are they going to have fun with this.
So
Well,
I
see,
talked
that's-
to
Yeah. If we get a letter from the judge who sentenced him, the Army may still take him. So that's another thing I get to do tomorrow.
So
I have
I
to
spoke
drive to
with-
Cleveland and talk with the judge. Anyway, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, sorry, I spoke with. Okay, so I talk to smart, decent, but very liberal people, and it varies. Not everybody's like screaming progressive, but I talk to people and have these little exchanges. When files are loading and things are showing up, you have little idle conversations about things. And I was talking to one of my customers, and she was talking about how her kid, really was looking forward to going back to school, and but she's saying, but a lot of the teachers don't seem to want to show up. So this started a very interesting conversation where I have to be very careful. But I've noticed a definite shift, even amongst more liberal people here in California, that they're starting to get it, that the teachers really aren't in it for the kids.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's taken a while, but they've because I said the following. I just said, well, you know that there were a bunch of teachers that said, oh, we're not going to go back to work until we get the vaccine, and then they gave them the vaccine before everybody else, put them right at the front of the line, you know, with the first responders, and then they said, yeah, we still don't feel safe. So we're not going until, you know, whatever bullshit they came up with. And I think regular people who are not particularly political, who don't consume the kind of news that we do, are starting to figure it out. And this is just based on the people that I talk to.
Well, there was the teacher who got caught, like, talking on a Facebook group saying, I'm not going back till the vaccine. This was when that was happening. And she was in Barbados or something like that on vacation. And that's actually become normal. Like, teachers are getting
Serenity,
caught
you
left.
have no idea. Like, last time we were doing the remote learning, my kids' teachers' cell phones were constantly going off. And because I guess I pay more attention to sound, I could tell. It was Facebook, Messenger, and WhatsApp.
Yep. And it's just like, it's one of those things.
Dude, fucking mute your phone if you're teaching. Jesus Christ. Like, what are you doing?
And the thing is, like, that's the thing that aggravates me. Like, in lower income states where the average base income is like 22 to 25,000, you have teachers who are making, like, my state are making $50,000 a year for nothing. Because I have friends who, because they went to college to get their MRS degree, they failed, so they went on to be a teacher. Like, that's a common joke around here. That when teachers start acting up, people will just look at them and go, "You didn't even get an MRS, go away."
He fits, right?
Yeah, and it's like, and that's the thing is, like, you don't deserve, like, the good teachers deserve the money they get. You don't. Which is, the teachers union is one of the reasons why I started disliking unions. And this is coming from someone whose grandmother was a teacher for 35 years. And she was not a nice woman.
You didn't like your grandmother either, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, that's the thing, though. It's like, I've noticed that her personality is the norm amongst a lot of teachers. Now, are there good ones out there? Yeah, absolutely. There always are. But it's like with the police unions and everything like that. They protect the bad. They don't help the good. And thus we have an oversaturation of the bad, and thus nothing changes, and thus stuff gets worse, like with Skep's step-grandson and all that kind of stuff, where it's like, I'm just going to sit in a room and do nothing. It's like, that must be nice to make $60,000 a year and do that without actually any effort, and while you run around on TikTok and every other godforsaken app. It's like, I wish I could do that. Can't.
Man, you know, West Virginia really is a low average salary state. They are only ahead of South Dakota, Arkansas, Mississippi, and the average in West Virginia is 42,370.
That's it.
And the lowest of the states is Mississippi at 39,000.
Yeah, we're
the
not
lowest in the United States is Puerto Rico at 29,000.
Yep.
The highest will be of no surprise to anyone. It's the District of Columbia.
Ooh, shocking.
Listen to this. The District of Columbia has a mean wage in U.S. dollars of $87,920. 87. Guess what number 2 is, and guess what the level is? Number 2 is Massachusetts.
Really?
At 63,000. So the difference is from 87 to 63,000.
That's crazy.
Yes, New York is 3rd, then Connecticut, then Washington State, then California, then Maryland, and Alaska coming in 8th, 9th, and Colorado 10th.
Well,
Virginia, by the way, is 11th.
Yeah.
Well, California is a weird one because we have such a huge. I mean, it's a huge state. Again, it really shouldn't be one state.
Yeah.
And so you have extremely poor rural counties and extremely rich urban counties.
Yeah.
And even richer suburbs of urban counties.
Right.
And so the difference between the people with money and the people without money is pretty huge in California. So it pulls the average down quite a bit. When you consider how many poor counties there are and how many working class people there are in California, and then you look at that average, you realize, oh, there's a lot of people with way more
I'm gonna
stupid amounts of money.
I'm going to support your point, Harry. In California, hang on, let me get this. It is okay. The median wage in California, that's half above and half below, is $42,000.
Damn.
The average wage is $75,000.
And you still can't buy a
Big
house.
difference.
No, but the point is the spread between those numbers.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, I
exactly.
know.
It's the difference
That means
between
that the top part is kind of heavy.
Yeah, very much so. So it's definitely a haves and have-not state.
Oh yeah.
Well, Newsom is busy trying to, as we divide people up to get them to fight against each other. That's been one of the big things about COVID and any of the economic recovery and the vaccines is everything has to be politicized.
Yep.
You can't have groups of people being vaccinated at lower rates. Forget the fact that it might just be choice, right, or disposition. Because people do just choose stuff. If you look at Scandinavian countries where they largely don't have any glass ceilings or anything keeping anybody from doing anything, you still see men and women choosing different professions.
Oh, yeah.
On average, you still see the same kinds of things being borne out. And I still believe that there are a lot of people in a lot of the communities here in California who just aren't that worried about COVID because they've just been working and going out and doing the same stuff, and it largely doesn't affect them. I mean, until Oma or what's Mexican for grandma? I can't remember. Abuela.
Abuela.
Until Abuela gets sick and dies. Because I mean, I do feel kind of, as far as COVID goes, yeah, there's a lot of BS out there, but I don't think that all of those ER doctors who looked like they were on the point of losing their minds were lying when they talked about how horrible it was to work in those COVID wards early on when they did not know what the hell to do to save people.
No,
Right.
We know
I don't-
so much more about how to treat COVID than we did 10 months ago.
And we learned things over which the politics came in to make people get in the way because they were saving more people so that when you came up, when somebody like Pierre Corey comes up with, out at UVA comes up with his protocol for prophylaxis, it gets shot down. And the singular focus of shooting down a team that was trying to work on both mitigating like immediately after diagnosis and also helping hospitals with guidelines, and then pushing even farther to look for how could we protect people from even ending up in the hospital, and then to have an entire crowd arrayed against them. And I don't think they're even looking at the data. I mean, because didn't India start using ivermectin?
And South Africa and several countries.
Yes, I think South Africa did it first.
And they were reporting significant decreases in hospitalizations. And it's like, oh, well, correlation, causation. They didn't run their study this way, that way. Egypt does one. Well, we haven't really done the proper age gap studies on this. And it's like, look, I understand that you want clean studies. I appreciate that. But your early indications are significant impact, and you're acting as if this isn't worth pursuing broader study. And the only way you can do that is to prescribe the shit now to people and put them in a test group. Say, hey, would you like to be in a test group? Because as frightened as people are of this shit, you're going to get a lot of people volunteering.
But if you Google using ivermectin with COVID, the very first thing that you get as a result is here's what you need to know about ivermectin. FDA has not approved ivermectin for use in treating or preventing COVID-19 in humans. Ivermectin tablets are approved at very specific doses for some parasitic worms And there are topical on the skin formulations for head lice and skin conditions like rosacea. Ivermectin is not an antiviral, a drug for treating viruses. Secondly, taking large doses of this drug is dangerous and cause serious harm. Third, if you have a prescription for ivermectin for an FDA-approved use, get it from a legitimate source and take it exactly as prescribed. 4, never use medications intended for animals on yourself. Ivermectin preparations for animals are very different from those approved for humans. Actually, they're not. And it then goes into a thing of what ivermectin is approved for, and then how unsafe it is to take it for anything, so, particularly in trying to treat COVID patients or preventing COVID-19. And then they finally say, however, there is some initial research underway. And then immediately followed by the statement, taking a drug for an unapproved use can be very dangerous. This is true of ivermectin too.
As if the police are going to come to your house and say, "Are you participating in that study from UVA?" Well, you're under arrest because you're taking it for reasons that we have in that very first Google search that say you're not supposed to take it for boo on you creeps. It's the don't remove this tag under penalty of law.
Yeah, it's the mattress tag problem, and
it's fucking infuriating.
It is. It absolutely is. Because this is from the FDA, by the way.
Of course, it's from the FDA.
Yeah,
there is no
the single
approved
most
treatment
corrupt
for
government
COVID.
organization.
There's no approved treatment. You used the word approved, right? Approved. Right. Now, there's authorized. They're authorized to use certain drugs. There's an authorization, broadly speaking, that doctors have to use things off-label. There's an emergency use authorization to use these vaccines, but there is no authorized treatment for COVID whatsoever. Not a single, approved. There's no approved treatment for COVID, full stop. Doesn't exist.
Yep.
So when you're in a situation where people are just doing what they can to just kind of play the odds and until we come up with an actual treatment for this thing, shut up.
Well, here's
it actually has an excellent safety profile. But of course, if you abuse it and you suck on, if you eat 5 dog collars, you might make yourself sick. Of course.
Well, that's true. But there's this thing that's the attorney's friend, and it's called the standards of care. Mm-hmm. Standard of care, is the approved treatment regimen for treatment of virtually anything for which there is a diagnostic code. And so within the if and the reason I call it the lawyer's friend is when somebody dies, the lawyer says, did they get standard of care? Well, what did they have and what were they treated with? I'm going to go hire an expert, and there are doctors, mostly failed MDs, who will sit there and testify to anything that the lawyer wants. Professional witnesses, and they will get up and say, no, this person did not receive the standard of care, and they received this awful ivermectin, and they died of COVID. And I will say that the ivermectin could have been partially at fault, and this doctor is giving people ivermectin off label, and that's not part of the standard of care. And so, yes, you can write stuff off label, Harry. You absolutely can, and that has been done for a long time. It's been winked at and all that kind of stuff. But now with more and more diagnostic and treatment therapies written into the standards of care, they're taking that level of discretion slowly away from practitioners. And
it's true.
If you're treating somebody for COVID and you think you might cure them or help them with ivermectin, you probably dare not write it for them because you're playing with your license.
Yep. And here's the thing. Nobody's going to frame it the way they should, which is the Trial Lawyers Association of America, the TLA. Those motherfuckers have cost people's lives during this pandemic. It's as simple as that.
What were you going to? Yeah.
It's fear of tort.
I agree. What were you going to say, Harry?
Oh, I have a possible pivot for you. It's a beautiful segue if you want it.
Let's do this. Let's do this.
So I was speaking with customer number 1 today, and we had previously discussed policies about people coming back into the office, and that they really wanted people to do it. There were people that were going to continue to work from home, and we all know that, sort of reading between the lines, there are going to be some people that are going to get let go because they're not willing to come into the office if they don't get the vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, there is no approved treatment for this. These vaccines are these are experimental. You sign the disclaimer as before you get the jab, saying yada yada yada. I understand that this is not an approved medication, emergency use authorization. To my mind, if you're looking at all kinds of trouble legally if you try to insist that somebody obtain a not approved treatment as a condition of work.
I would agree with that.
And I can just see labor lawyers just salivating at the amount of money they're going to make because, at the very least, there are at will employment states where you can fire somebody and you have to pay the unemployment, but you can't say, oh no, you did a voluntary quit by not getting the vaccine and you couldn't perform your duties and you didn't follow our code. I mean, that's really coercive to hold somebody's livelihood over their head in exchange, as a threat, saying you have to obtain an unapproved emergency authorization medical product before you can come in and work for us. I mean, there is a lot of law. I mean, of course, they didn't like what I was telling them. I said, look, I just don't want you to get sued. I said,
Yeah.
I've got the vaccine. I'm not anti-vaccine. I think people over the age of 40 should get it. Whatever, I mean, I'm just saying that I think you're opening yourself up to liability and you should talk to somebody who knows a lot more about the law than I do or you do before you make a decision.
Especially because the emergency authorization provides indemnification to the drug manufacturers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the damn Tuskegee Airmen. I'm not in the Army and I haven't signed away my rights. Because, in the Army, they can make you take experimental things because we're going to send you off to combat. And guess what? You get to take this anthrax vaccine.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Does it work? Probably.
Maybe.
Let me tell you, when they lined us up, to get our shots to go to officer candidate school, you don't even get to know what they're giving you.
Don't ask.
Yeah, it's don't ask, don't tell.
And you don't need to know because you're going to get it.
Don't worry about it.
Exactly. It's are you left-handed? You get it in your right arm. That's the only choice you have. That was the only conversation that was permitted. And so no, you're absolutely right. There are some baked in problems, and Prospero was really detailing what those are, and that is, I'm all about tort reform. I really do believe that the way that we make people whole who have been wronged, as it were, by their doctors, it has swung ridiculously far to where even the smallest harm can result in millions of dollars. And there are several things that are wrong. One of which is the abilities of juries to award ridiculous amounts of money that are clearly just based on emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And not having anything to do with what the actual harm was, or it has to do with the fact that they end up hating the defendant.
The most egregious recently was the Roundup case.
Mm.
Oh my God!
Can you run through that real quick for us?
Yeah, it's a couple in their 70s who both got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I think. And because they had used Roundup and they'd been hearing, because thanks California with all your carcinogen warnings.
You're welcome.
And they were Cali people, if I recall. They decided to sue because glyphosate might cause cancer. Yeah, so could saliva. Glyphosate, you have to ingest an enormous amount of glyphosate. in order to make yourself ill. Glenn Beck's producer, Stuart Berger, drank a glass of glyphosate on air.
Yeah.
Small glass of it. And he had a newborn at home. You know, he wasn't starting a shotgun, boys and girls. He was proving that the stuff is pretty much...
Well, it's a plant enzyme inhibitor, and that's all that it does. So it's complex. It's a chemical key. Think of it as being a key that is really long and really complicated and fits only one lock, or it actually fits 3 locks. And that's all it fits.
And it's
any other lock, it just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and so I'm sure if you ingested it.
Well, here's what happens: if the phosphate, part of the phosphate, breaks off basically, and phosphorus can't like any of the elements in that particular column in the periodic table can destroy cells. Anything that can destroy cells can cause irregular cell growth. And therefore anything with phosphorus in it basically that can produce a reasonable amount of phosphate ions is carcinogenic in the opinion of California.
Well, okay, fine. So are matches, right? You know,
right? If you ate matches, the same thing could happen.
Or if you lit them constantly and you were getting the phosphorus on your fingers and you stuck your fingers in your mouth. I don't.
Right.
Unless these people were pouring glasses for breakfast, lunch, and dinner of Roundup for years, they did not through contact exposure or anything else. And the funny thing is that the husband, it's like the husband was the one that went out and went with the pump sprayer, you know, with the Roundup. The wife never even, but, you know, of course she'd come in contact with it because potato.
Hodgkin's lymphoma is contagious, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I would.
And also the chance in the over 70 group of being diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, particularly when that group was over 70, because this would be like silent generation and our parents' generation, Skep.
Yes. No.
They were exposed to an awful lot of things.
Oh my God.
That
chlordane. Chlordane was one of the insecticides of choice. Chlordane. That really is carcinogenic. That shit's dangerous as hell.
I was going to say chloridane. It's like you're reading my mind, Skep.
Yeah.
By the way, chat, the League of Nerds has covered this at length, and they did a very, very good job of it. Essentially, it's a UN circle jerk that sort of got hooked up with a very, very bad and extremely dishonest study. League of Nerds covers this in depth. I put the link in the chat.
Did they use the knockout mice to test this?
No. Here's what
go ahead.
Well, I wanted to read you just one sentence from the World Health Organization's International Agency Research on Cancer, the IARC, classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic in human based on epidemiological studies, animal studies, and in vitro studies. That was after the European Food Safety Authority concluded in November 2015 that the substance is unlikely to be genotoxic, i.e. damaging to DNA, or to pose a carcinogenic threat in humans, later clarifying that while carcinogenic glyphosate-containing formulations may exist, studies that look solely at the active substance do not show this effect. And when you look at the study that they reference there, that study references like 15 double-blind, fully controlled, world-class studies that show this stuff just doesn't cause cancer.
No, you know how this happened? I mean, I remember when this talk started. It was the anti-GMO crowd.
Yeah. I'm
No,
sure.
it's the anti. It's all about Monsanto. It's basically they have a hate
Yes.
boner for Monsanto.
Absolutely. And glyphosate is a broad spectrum herbicide. And one of the keys, because it's great for mass crop spraying, was to find, because corn is a grass, you know,
Yeah.
wheat, rye, barley, corn, all of them are grasses. And broad spectrum herbicides can damage grasses, because that's a lot of what your weed shit is. The GMO corn they were creating was Roundup resistant. They were trying to make sure that you could whoosh your cornfield and you could get rid of all those pesky weeds and bump up your corn yield, because corn is a great bang for buck acreage crop.
Yes.
And, you know, if you're trying to feed the world, cornmeal goes a long way. I mean, it really does. So, if you look at where the GMO focus was put, it was put in trying to alleviate world hunger and stabilize crop production of essential crops. I mean, just essential to human survival crops. So they figure out how to do this. And then people lose their shit.
Yeah.
They're genetically modifying my food. Say the people stuffing Cheetos in their fucking face.
And microwave
and-
meals and
Yeah, and I mean, it's like they might as well be eating paint chips, dipping them in paste. Okay, it's absolutely, it is, the only word for it is retarded, because it is backward thinking. They are ignorant of the process, and it is the hate boner against Monsanto, and because Monsanto did make a misstep or two, I'd say, with some of the farmers involved in some of the GMO crop testing. Everything got conflated. And now I'm done with that rant.
I have two pieces of information for you.
Yeah.
So, like I said, League of Nerds did a great job. They cited more than 600 studies that show that glyphosate is safe. Now, there's this particular study which is almost Wakefield levels of bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, actually worse. This isn't just bad science. This is willfully incorrect science. This
Willful
is something
manipulation of the data. Yeah.
where somebody willfully manipulated the data to try to make a point, because it said hate boner. Now, this particular paper was cited by the UN as part of their initial declaration. They came out and said, "Oh, big problem. We announced this sort of, thing. Glyphosate is something we're really concerned about." They had to retract that. I think they retracted it like the next day or two, because in terms of what they were citing for their sources, they were citing like papers on their C drives, not independent peer-reviewed research, mind you, just things they had on the file server at the UN. And so they retracted that thing and didn't have the balls to trot it out. But of course, the latent sort of screw Monsanto stuff is still alive and well there. But there are a lot of activists who just don't like genetic engineering in general. They think that something bad will happen. Your body doesn't know. Your body doesn't care. You could
crop
produce
is the
genetic.
same.
Well, you could produce genetically modified things that could cause allergies by creating the wrong kinds of proteins and stuff. I mean, that's totally true. But it's not like we don't test this stuff. And the weeds are competition for the corn. The corn is growing in the soil. It's pulling the nutrients from the soil. It's photosynthesizing. Anything else that's growing in the soil adjacent to that corn is a competitor.
Yes.
And that's why you get rid of the damn weeds.
Yeah, and it's the thing that's, I mean, I do think on appeal, because I'm absolutely certain Bayer has appealed this, because doesn't Bayer own Monsanto now? I don't know, doesn't matter. That they're going to get this this judgment overturned. But they're going to have a hard time. That's going to cost them a lot. But the judgment was ridiculous.
Yeah, they have to challenge it.
It
They
was
can't
12
let something
12 billion
stand.
or something like that. And
It was an absolutely it was a complete travesty, the amount of money that these people got. There are people who have been, because of industrial accidents, who've literally bathed in the stuff, who, yeah, you'll get sick. For things like insecticides, yeah, you really don't want to get that stuff on you. That's why you have protective gear.
Yeah,
This
is
is an
herbicide, and people
Well,
think it's a pesticide. That's
right,
the
but
other thing.
But they've crop dusted, over the top of migrants and made them sick. A lot of
Yes.
times the carrier that's mixed with the thing, it's not the active ingredient, just the carrier for it, because it's like some sort of, aromatic hydrocarbon type of thing,
Right,
is
exactly.
enough to make the people
Exactly
sick.
Right.
And it
Right.
isn't the active part of it that's the issue.
No, it's the gasoline
yes.
they use to spread it.
Yeah, and insecticides are a whole different thing, because essentially most of them are effectively nerve gas. They're like anti-acetylcholinesterases or something like that. They're
Yeah,
really
but
Yeah.
nasty.
this is-
But plant hormones aren't good for you either, especially the stuff they're mixed in.
Yeah, so application needs to be carefully done. But trust me, guys, you can buy Roundup, and you can go out in the backyard, and you can get rid of your weeds, and you don't have to worry if you get some on your skin, and you forget, and you wipe the back of your hand across your mouth, that you're going to die of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma from Roundup. That's
Not
not
from
going
Roundup.
to happen.
And
It's not going to happen. You might die of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I don't have a crystal ball.
It'll take out your hydrangea, though. Trust me.
Yeah.
You make a mistake with Roundup, you can wipe your flowers out.
Yeah,
Brenda and I use Roundup.
I like
And,
the Ortho
yes.
brush gun myself. When I really have a vendetta against plants, Roundup just doesn't cut it.
Yeah, but Roundup overall.
Say hello to my little friend.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people actually take bleach in a bottle and use that. You can use
Yes.
when I was doing straw bale vegetable gardening, you could take white ammonia and not white ammonia, white vinegar, and apply it, because it is far too acidic for the little baby
Right.
sprouts that were trying to come up out of the straw bales, and they go away. Wee. But without causing any harm. Ooh. Everything's magical and mystical, isn't it? Lovely. But it's one of those things that.
All right, we agree it's a mess.
Yeah,
and
sorry.
probably I think we can move on. One of the things that I also wanted to do tonight was, especially on nights when we have Blind Press and Irate with us, is to kind of just take a moment, kind of focus in on them, because sometimes they have interesting guests on their channel. And I thought I would start with Blind Press. What's been going on your channel? What you been doing?
I've been trying to just keep things consistent lately, because everything's been so up in the air with, are the kids home? Are the kids not home? So I've just been struggling with consistency as best as I can.
Just trying to keep an oar in the water, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. And are we going to do Wednesdays with Skep tomorrow?
We are, and I'm
All
gonna
right.
have to do it at about 12:30, because I have another lesson.
That's
with
fine.
my,
11:30 my time, right?
Yeah, 11:30 your time.
Okay, good. I look forward to that. And Irate, what's been going on with you?
Oh, I don't know. Let's see. Been playing. Sora, tell you, I've been playing the Shore a lot, which is this.
What's that?
It's a Lovecraftian type game
Okay.
where you wake up on this desert island, and it's got all this weird iconography all over it, and then you start to you can explore that. I mean, if you're a really a Lovecraft fan,
Yeah.
you're really going to love this game because it gives you an atmosphere and like an environment, you know. And part of me wants it to be like a 3D game.
So it's
At
got
some
call
point, like,
outs to the great Lovecraft monsters and stuff like that.
oh my God, yeah. Like the first thing you do is like, this is no secret, but this is what hooks me, all right, or hooked me, is that this voice tells you go through this portal to the other side of the island, and this voice tells you to release the key, and then if you figure it out, you use this engine that's made out of not prehistoric, but you know, it's ancient shit, and it's stones and things, right? And so and then all of a sudden this huge obelisk that's standing there like stands up and starts walking around the
Oh,
island.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's just like, oh shit. And then so and there's these things called deep ones, which are humans that have been transformed into like fish people because they worship the god Dagon
Oh, yeah.
and Cthulhu and all this shit, right?
My first wife was like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then I was having a hard time because of the gill man was killing me. Oh, there's a great nod to Jaws on it too. There's a perfect replica of the orca. Yeah, from Jaws, which is kind of cool. I don't think a lot of people catch that, but so that's a real fun game. And I'm also been replaying the Blade Runner game from 1997 because Rose to the Opinions hooked me up with a copy.
Blade Runner is awesome,
dude. That game is killer.
Yeah.
It's still good, man, and it stands up to the test of time. It's good art.
Yeah.
Good
art does.
All right, so on my channel wise, the cream streams have been going strong, doing good.
Who've you been interviewing on Interview?
All right, so oh wow, man. All right, Ryan himself, Arthur Nix, Shagon, some people I've done. I got Dave Lee Murphy coming up on Sunday. I might have to do that a little bit different because of the situation, but it's happening. Cool. And let's see, Toya D.
Nice.
Toya's going to be on?
Yes.
Sweet.
Toya D's coming up, and we know she's nice.
Yes.
Because every time I say that, it pisses her off.
Yep.
She's
sweet.
She is a sweet person. and then and this guy named Drone Tech coming up. So I'm trying to kind of spread out into different areas. I've kind of interviewed just about everybody I know, except for some people. Anyway, and the Monday. All right, so the thing I'm doing with Becca on the communism thing is not anti-communism. It's more like anti. I don't know. It's pro-capitalist propaganda, and I'm fucking proud to say that. Right? It's good stuff. And on Facebook, it's just every time I do anything that says communism bad, they stamp on it, and then now they're getting to a point of where they're showing me exactly the portion where, and then I'm usually saying things like, Bill Ayers was a mentor of Barack Obama's, because they're talking about him being a criminal and a terrorist, his background, because at that point in time he was still a known terrorist. So showing old stuff. Well, you know what I'm saying? He was labeled as, we'll put it that way, right? Publicly labeled as. And it was a real cool thing about also talking about the connection with with Toronto was like kind of like this funnel for KGB stuff. Mm-hmm. Right. And it was because you could jump over and a lot of the newspaper people,
subversive people in Canada. Are you kidding?
Well, it's
kind of a stretch. Okay.
Yeah, I know it's a tough one, but
that's what you like to think. No.
But so it was from 1982, 81 or 82. Mm-hmm. So, and that was really good. And Facebook says these 3 minutes are owned by Sony, and I clearly said to them, A, it's public domain. B, I've modified with music and like, you know, the way I'm framing it. All right. I've transformed it enough, and I stop it and comment on it.
Yeah.
Sony don't own my fucking voice.
No.
They're trying
If
to.
they
maybe.
do, they better pay you.
Yeah, no shit.
Excuse me.
Right. So it's just it's every week. Well, the deal is, all right, is that they're stopping my stuff on Facebook because, all right, it's a 7-day review on the challenge. All right. And everything I dispute, except for a couple of things, all right, after that 7-day period's up, that gets dropped. Now there's these I think this a North Korean hacker that's trying to make money on the side has this company, and they flagged me like twice, and I was onto their shit, and I said I want connection to your legal department immediately, and they dropped it that day, so it was like that. So there's definitely, but the Sony mark stuff is definitely a deliberate delay, because a lot of, you know, the stuff I do on Fridays is kind of you know, it's kind of news oriented, so it's time sensitive to a degree, right?
Yep.
Even though it's like you can like look at the whole thing, and you know, I kind of try to paint a narrative with that too. And then the accelerated deconstruction, or XD as now we're calling it, has been crazy. Looking at the CRT, that's right. The beloved CRT.
I just realized it's 5-1 for me.
It's 5-1. That was
Holy
one
shit.
reason that I wanted to get the channel update from you guys. Was I was afraid
Sorry,
Blind
no.
Press was going to vanish off the face of the stream here.
She
And,
turns into a pumpkin.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to catch her before her pumpkin metamorphosis. And I can feel it happening. It's like you're hearing the Disney change music in the background.
The clock is striking.
Right, bong bong. So, do you have any shillage other than Wednesdays with Skep? It's going to be at 12:30 Eastern Time on the Blind Press channel tomorrow, 11:30 Central Time. And what else is going on?
Also, be sure to check out my link tree. That is linktr.ee/blindpress. There you can get access to all the different ways to help out the content in the channel, including getting yourself a My Eyes mug, which is pretty cool. It's quite literally a mug that has my eyes on either side of it.
That's
Well, not your actual eyes, facsimile eyes.
No,
Yeah.
picture of
her acrylic eye models.
Yeah.
BP?
Mm-hmm.
Old lady got a blood wing. Am I going to see you Thursday?
You are.
All right, thank you.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Good night, guys.
thank you for
night,
joining us, Blind
Night.
Press. Get a good night's sleep.
Good night.
Good night, sweetie.
Good night.
Night.
And then there were 7.
And
Now
then
you
we
only
were
have 7. We have enough to defend a small village from
yeah, exactly.
whatever.
I apologize if I went too long on that.
No. I want to hear an update and hear what you've been up to. I really truly enjoyed that. One of the things I've been doing, Serenity changed my life by introducing me to Robert Jordan, and I finished book 9 this afternoon.
Nice.
These books have 600 pages to the book. These are not short books.
Mm-mm.
And I've read the prequel, so I know how Moraine and Lan originally got together.
Yep.
And it's I'll tell you something. This Wheel of Time, it'll take over your life. But if you love the sword and sorcery type stuff and a particular type of I love the way they handled magic. There's so many good things about that. I recommend this series without hesitation. It's not Dickens, okay? It's not even Charlotte Bronte, but it's extremely well written. It's so much better written than Game of Thrones. The writing is so much, George R. R. Martin. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I've read enough in my over half a century on this earth to know what good writing is. And George R. R. Martin is nothing more than a journeyman writer. He's capable of doing a decent job and really not much more. He's rarely inspired. And so some of the ideas and the way that the plot is knitted into the unique aspects of the world that Robert Jordan builds, and the regeneration nature of the world. They call it the pattern, and the pattern weaves as the pattern wills. That's something they say a lot in that. And the ages come and go, and the ages repeat in an endless cycle of repetition. And it's a fascinating take on reality. It really makes you think. And there's so many layers to this book. I mean, you can enjoy it just as hey, let's get together and have an adventure. You can enjoy it on that level, or you can enjoy it on a significantly deeper philosophical level. And plus, the world building, as I said, is great. And the guy knows how to write dialogue and transition and exposition. He just is a polished, or was a, he's dead now.
Yeah,
was polished writer. I'm almost filled with trepidation because I'm almost to the Sanderson part, and I'm hoping that the quality stays as high.
well, it's like anything. It depends on your how you feel about it. I like Sanderson's writing because I read his individual stuff.
Yeah, I read his individual stuff too, and I enjoy his writing. I just hope he does a good job with this.
I personally think he does, but I always say that Jordan is. If you think Tolkien is, he's in between. He's obviously more than George R. R. Martin. But if Tolkien was just a little too wordy for you, Jordan's a kind of good place to go because he does it just enough.
Yes,
and he doesn't.
That's a really good insight. I agree with you.
So if you hate Tolkien, which I understand people do, there's no problem with that because it's an entertainment. You're allowed to like what you like and hate what you hate. But if you want something that's just a little bit more kind of gets to the point, Jordan's probably your best bet.
Well, the thing about Jordan is you're right. He is plot is first and foremost with him, but he's capable of describing a scene that makes it interesting and come alive for you. So yeah, it's not the florid prose of J.R.R. Tolkien, with poetry and endless description of the plants and flowers and birds and this, that, and the other thing. But you do get a little bit of that with Jordan, and just at the point where you think you've had enough of it, it turns out he's had enough too, and he gets on with the plot. And I love his touch. I really love his novelist's touch with this. So that was one thing I've been meaning to do for a while, is come out and give a solid and justified recommendation, and also a big thank you to Serenity for turning me on to this guy, because it really is worth spending some time with if you enjoy that style of writing, and I certainly do. So anyway, that kind of killed the stream there, but I thought it might serve as a sorbet, and we could get back into other things. One of the
DHS story.
Yeah.
Did you see that today? The DHS says they're considering building wall on the U.S.-Mexico border to fill in the gaps.
Biden is such an innovator. Where does he come up with these ideas?
It's a vertical containment area.
Exactly. It was
Yeah,
It's not a wall.
literally,
the fence.
literally
Coyote funnel.
talking
Yeah.
about building a wall. This is
I started
Just let him
laughing
do
when
it.
I read that. Yeah, just
Just sit back and let him
Wow.
do it.
yeah, I know. Ranting Monkey got off probably one of the best tweets because it was some other bullshit out of the Biden administration. He goes, "You don't say next you're going to try to tell me he's going to build a wall." You know, and I was like, God damn it. Because
Yep. And his new slogan, "Make
it
America
doesn't
Good
get any
Again."
better than this, folks. I mean,
Yep.
if the best you can do is piss takes with the Biden administration, okay, that's the best we can do. Just sit back and wait for them to have to course correct on fucking everything.
Prospero, what was the name of that artist that would like rap shit, like the Arc de Triomphe and God, what was his name?
I do not know.
what, as in like he.
He literally like had like a shitload of cloth like popped in and
Oh,
they wrapped it around it, right? They did this London Bridge. He wrapped the London Bridge.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
it reminded me of this thing he did with this. It was like a cloth fence, and it was
Oh,
going through
the one out in California.
I don't
Cristo
know.
was his name, right?
Cristo, yes,
Cristo,
thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, I remember
Thank
that guy.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
all right.
maybe he can put the wall up.
Exactly. It's where
It'll be made of a string of braziers, though.
it's
That's
called a
the thing.
boomerang.
Well, I'd like to see people try to climb a string of braziers.
that would be
No,
interesting.
he actually
See,
did a thing that was
It would
like a
be
string of braziers. Wasn't it over a canyon? I mean, that was one of his things.
Oh,
Probably.
I'm not surprised.
That's the thing. The wall should be like a series of Chinese jump ropes
Yeah.
and bungee cords. And it would be like the most awesome thing to watch people try. Because, you know, it's like rope, the big net ladders for like basic training, Skep. You know, trying to climb large width rope ladders and how wobbly they are and how so many people have so much trouble keeping their balance on something like that. That'd slow them down enough to get border patrol there if you were using like a drone spotting system, because you cannot sprint up those.
You can try.
No,
Yeah.
you can't. You really can't.
I know.
No, even elite trained guys, it's a very deliberate climb. It's
Oh, yeah.
It's like python climbing. You see them do dun 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 dun. I mean, they go up a lot faster. But unless you can leap to the top of the thing and pull yourself up, but that would be kind of fun to make it out of bungee. Every time you step on doing. What we ought to do is, what was that? The Japanese did it first. It's that obstacle course. I think they called it American Ninja or something.
Oh, yeah. The
silly
American
like
Ninja
that.
Warrior, yeah.
That's what we need at the border. Because the pay-per-view could pay for it.
Oh, yeah. No, that would pay
We're,
for it
we're
like
about
a day.
we're about the solutions here on Minis in the Zoo.
I think it's a good idea. I mean,
I think it's a good idea to like have VOD and sell like for executions and stuff. I think that's a
That one gets a little morbid, but okay.
All right.
hey man, it's like you could really like do a good show around.
there is some shit though that would sell for video on demand, like bedtime at the
Very.
White House.
Oh,
Barry, stop it.
yeah, warn us when you're going to do that. Ugh.
It's just-
I'll circle back.
Harry, my
Fuck you.
genitals just turned inside out.
I heard she had a little problem with the questions regarding Biden's blatant mischaracterization of the Georgia Voting Act.
Wow.
That,
Well, I mean-
and that somebody said she parkoured around that better than Michael Smith, and I was like, oh, Office reference. It's just,
It's like when someone actually asked her about the video of the coyotes dropping toddlers over the fence, and she was like, "Well, why are you asking?" It's like, bitch, who fucking cares? Just
Well,
answer
right.
the question.
Let's
gets all
circle
cunty
back
and
to the
shit.
video, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit.
And the reporter was like, I care because they're children. What are you asking me this for?
You know, she may be the best weapon the right has come up with yet.
I know.
I just think it's amazing she's still there.
I mean, she's been fired too, yeah.
Because
really.
this is April, and in 2.5 months, all she has done is now, granted, it chews up a lot of time, people making fun of her, and looking at the missing, maybe it's part of their sleight of hand. Because whenever there is some big flap about something, I'm like, what are they doing over there in the background?
Right. What's the misdirection?
Mm-hmm. Because it's... By the way, it's really something about that Capitol attack, how they keep talking about it.
Yeah, and everybody's just like, all right, can we move on, please?
That one evaporated.
Yeah.
Into thin air.
It's like the more stuff comes out, it's like the cop's family and everybody's retracted their statement saying that the cop died at the thing, so they've had to pull that back.
I don't mean that Capitol attack. I mean the one last week.
Oh yeah, the one that especially when his mugshot got shown.
Oh, I mean the one where the Washington Post said he died after a car struck him, as if the car fell out of the sky on top of him.
Right.
Oh Lord.
The deliberate wording.
They're failing miserably.
Yeah, I mean it's just he kept running into the man holding the knife, making the thrusting movements. I mean, what the hell?
Exactly.
Giggity.
Totally wasn't stabbed.
Yeah, no, totally understand. Knife of peace. Knife of peace.
Well, it's like you don't see the mugshots on the people that have been attacking the elderly Asian. Somebody, Asians in Oklahoma, and there was one in New York City. I mean, but it's all Trump rhetoric.
Well, it's like I've even watched on social media where they've tried to circle this back to it being white supremacy. Well, the whites have forced the blacks to turn against the Asians. It's like,
bullshit.
No. Nice try, though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there have got to be some people from the 1950s who moved into Spanish Harlem who can explain how pecking order works.
Oh, yeah.
There's got to be somebody honest out there who will explain how the social class identity politics pecking order works.
We can hope. I don't have any answers about that, but the feeling that I got, and that's actually what I started the stream with, was that people are taking a second look. People seem to be taking a more nuanced, jaundiced, your adjective here, look at things and pausing a little longer and saying, wait a minute, old Brian Stelter is telling me that I'm supposed to feel a certain way about this, but I'm starting to put 2 and 2 together, and he keeps insisting that it's 5.
When Brian Stelter speaks, I get a feeling that I want crispy smashed potatoes.
When Brian Stelter speaks, an angel loses its soul.
Yeah. Yeah, they just
Stelter
plummet straight to hell.
Stelter speaks, Skep. All I want to yell at him is, "There are 4 lights!"
Yeah. Right.
But it's one of those things, it's kind of that part where meme culture actually kind of in a weird way helps, is that like with the Jen Petoskey or whatever the fuck her name is. Saki. With the circle back thing, it's become such a meme that people have started to pay attention to how many times she says it. Because you'll see it on the meme boards where they're like, that's just one sound file, and then someone will go, no, that's not one sound, that's not just her, like someone just taking it a one time and then just looping it. That's her throughout an entire press conference. And then you see people who maybe not aren't on the Democrat side or whatever side you want to go with, liberal, whatever, but are in the neutral. I just want to live my life. They don't claim anything. Then they realize, holy shit, these people are nuts.
Everybody has a stall for time tick.
Yeah.
Verbalized pause, they call it in Toastmasters.
And some people
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us we and
Yeah.
er a lot, but people will. I space my words
Mm-hmm.
to the point that the ellipses sound like periods, and Harry bangs his head against his desk, like, Christ, is that
I
a
don't
comma,
know what I'm
semicolon?
supposed to do.
I know. Cree says it to me all the time, though.
Sometimes
I thought you
I
were
don't know whether
through.
it's a comma, semicolon, period, or a new paragraph.
Yeah, that's. If I could, but I can't. I can't switch my icon that quickly. I would go very quickly to go new paragraph, not done yet. Christ, she's still talking?
Well, sometimes the thoughts don't come out as they're forming. The thoughts that are going to come out at the end of the sentence are still being formed while you're verbalizing the front end of the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be a time when you simply stop talking and say, I'm going to pause here and finish forming that thought. And, everybody does that. It's not a big deal. It's kind of interesting to see, how different people accomplish that. People who are less thoughtful don't have those kinds of verbal tics because they don't synthesize new thoughts. They don't take disparate thoughts, combine them together, and create a new synthetic thought out of that. Usually they're just repeating slogans that are current in their head, and that's the frustrating thing about Twitter is that's just them doing that, but typing it instead of speaking it. One of the most profound verbal tics I ever heard was that of William F. Buckley, who while he just gently squeezed out these amazing sentences, with pithy, intelligent,
Better writer than a speaker, though.
right. But definitely, he was horrible. He was a horrifying speaker, but he was a terrific writer and a terrific thinker. And unfortunately, he was crafting his speech as he was speaking it, and it never really worked very well for him.
I will admit that word choice is what tends to make me hesitate as often as I do. I'm sifting through the choices that I have of
Extensive vocab.
of what language to use, and it becomes paralytic at times because I'm trying so desperately to be precise and not be misunderstood in an age where even if you are precise, you're going to be misunderstood. It may be a fool's errand on my part.
When you said that about word choice, it reminded me of, I think it's a scene from Terminator, where in his mind somebody's speaking to him and he has like 4 different responses, like no, I'm just passing through here, or I don't need to talk to you right now. And the 4th one is fuck off, asshole.
Yeah.
That's fuck off, asshole.
Yeah. Right.
That would be one of my go-tos. Anyway, be that as it may. So I was the other thing I was going to do tonight was ask if anyone had anything in particular they wanted to say out loud or unburden themselves, or just bring to our attention something interesting that you saw and noticed or thought we might talk about this evening.
Irate Prostate had to leave.
Yes.
So everybody remember Cream Stream, 12 midnight, his channel, Fridays. And Sundays at 5, I believe, is his ice cream interview.
Yes. Yeah. That's the interview.
He's been shilled. I'm
All right.
so helpful. That's my parting thought.
Fair enough. Well, yeah. This is not time for parting thoughts, but this is just. I just wanted to see if anybody had anything that they wanted to get out there that we hadn't covered tonight. If anybody had anything just dying to get out.
Nothing that's short.
Yeah, I understand.
Topic for another day, baby.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm not going to bring up, except just the an interesting thing that's going on is the people who have been locked up from January 6th, the January 6th riot in Washington D.C., are mostly white people, and the guards in their jails are mostly black people. And there are accusations now coming out that these guys are getting the crap beat out of them pretty regularly. And I'm not saying these guys, may not deserve it, but this, if you're going to lock somebody up in jail, I think you have a duty to protect them and keep them whole. I don't think they should be beaten up at the hands of sadistic guards. And the interesting thing is that there has been no mention of this in the mainstream press. None. You will never see this on MSNBC or CNN.
They ought to go to The Hague.
God, that's a great idea, actually.
I'm not kidding you. Just do a complete end run and go to The Hague. If I were one of their attorneys, that's what I would do. I'd file a petition that their human rights are being violated, that they're being deliberately targeted as political prisoners in the United States of America. How fast do you think every one of them would be sprung?
Well, would that happen, or would The Hague just say, we're not interested. You guys are a bunch of racists, and you get whatever you...
If you're having a press conference at The Hague...
Yeah, that's,
If you're having a press conference at The Hague, that is something that the State Department, the White House, the Justice Department, everybody's going to piss their pants if you do something like that.
Do you know where I got this story? You're going to laugh. I got this off of Politico.
I believe it.
That's when I thought, are things changing? Is Politico actually trying to cover the news and not just a narrative?
Every now and then, the blind squirrel,
Yeah, look, it's an acorn. Yeah, there's that possibility.
Somebody should contact Glenn Greenwald so he can start shaking the trees for contacts that he has in D.C.
Oh, no kidding.
Because I know he's persona non grata with the left now, which is hilarious because the man is a committed leftist. I mean, this is like Greenwald is kind of to journalism what Chomsky is to every effete tanky in higher education.
Yeah.
But just like Chomsky is committed to free speech, Greenwald is committed to certain principles of liberty and truth. And he doesn't seem to be able to be moved from them, which is nice. But there are a few journalists out there who ought to be on this story, and Greenwald is one of them. Politico, I can believe that they would be interested in it, but it's something that needs to be waved around and shopped around a little bit to the international press.
Yeah, I mean, Politico is relentlessly liberal, but as I was going through Politico, I was seeing a lot of news stories not being covered by the MSM. I just wonder if they may be sniffing out a market vacancy and rushing to fill it in.
Well, the mainstream media gave up reporting any news that wasn't political.
Didn't move their narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't move their narrative, and as a result, they're missing stories, and they're going to miss cultural cracks. Because
Oh yeah.
they're so committed. I mean,
It's
this
good
business about anti-Asian violence is a huge cultural
Yes.
fault line. It's existed for. It's so hypocritical because it's getting attention now that it's Asians. And
Yeah.
because
People of color.
this has been a situation for Jews for a long period of time.
Really? Is
yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
But it was they're only POCs now, Skep, because before they were white.
Right. Back when they lived, back when
But
they were
now that
getting
they can
killed,
use it-
when they were getting killed in Crown Heights, they weren't
Yeah, yeah.
people of color, right?
But now that they can use it to help push their whatever narratives, like,
No, I
they're
understand.
Yeah, but
POC.
it is interesting how Asians are shapeshifters, just like Jews are shapeshifters.
Just like Jews, yeah.
Yeah.
I know exactly what that's
but
like.
but
Get it all the time.
but the attacks in Jewish neighborhoods were overlooked for a very long period of time, and it is a problem. It is a racial issue, and nobody wants to touch it because it's a racial issue.
Yeah.
And it is it's been known for decades as far as the Jewish community went. It's inexplicable also as far as the Jewish community goes. But now with the Asian community, it's kind of interesting. There was a brief dust-up in Chicago along another fault line, and that is between the black community and the Hispanic community. And I think you might see that one begin to open also. There's significant fault. You cannot, if there are no white people living around you to blame, who are you going to blame? You're going to blame white adjacent. That's one of the issues that they're ginning up by causing all of this internecine fighting. I mean, because we're all of the human race, right? But they're committed to color being the thing, and it is going to cause a lot more problems than it's causing even now.
Well-
Frankenstein's monster is aware.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the interesting thing is that this is kind of blown up in their face a little bit because this is the point where everybody's going when you see people with hashtags where it's like BLM, Black Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, Hispanic Lives Matter, and then you see like someone respond and go, yeah, it's almost like all lives matter.
Yeah.
And they never have a response to that because it's like, that's what people fucking meant. Assholes.
Babylon B did that. People with yard signs that say Asian Lives Matter, Hispanic Lives Matter, and Black Lives Matter are coming perilously close to saying all lives matter.
I saw that. That was
Yeah.
that was fine.
The
That was
Babylon
fine.
B have become the oracle.
Yes, the Oracle / court jester.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they'd stop because I don't want some of their stuff to come true. I'm like, please don't.
Actually, the faster some of the things that they're suggesting do come true, the faster this nonsense can stop.
Yeah,
True.
or at least it'll change into something maybe better than what we have now. And that's bring it full circle there to back to change. Another thing I'm going to do a little bit differently, speaking of differently, is I used to force everybody, person by person, to speak last words, and I'm not going to do that anymore. Or at least I don't think I am. And for tonight, I'm just going to put this out there. If anybody has anything that they want to say to help in the stream, now's the time to do it because the stream's almost over. So anybody, the floor is open. Any subject.
Good night. Go to fuck to sleep.
Sticking feathers up your butt does not make you a chicken.
Yep, go anywhere you want, but you can't stay here. Okay, I hear you. Well, in that case, I would like to thank chat for coming out and watching us for the last 2 hours, and thank my panel here. Thanks to everybody, including Blind Press and Irate Prostate and Serenity, Prospero, Harry, Sora, Functional. Thank you all for spending 2 hours with me here, and it's always fun. I do have a couple of quotes that I will share with you regarding change, and just to end the evening. And let's see. The first one comes from Solon, the ancient Greek lawmaker, and he said, "For often evil men are rich and good men poor, but we will not exchange with them our virtue for their wealth." It's nice work if you can get it there, old Solon. Hope it works out for you. But unfortunately, reality is a different story, sadly. Benjamin Disraeli, the British Prime Minister, said, "In a progressive country, change is constant. Change is inevitable." And Plutarch said, "I don't need a friend who changes when I change and who nods when I nod. My shadow does that much better." But the last thing I'll leave with you and is and I'm going to say it the correct way, not the way that most pseudo intellectuals say it. Plus ça change, plus c'est pareil. The more it changes, the more it stays the same. And we're going to leave it there tonight. Thanks, everybody, for coming out and being a part of this. And we'll do it again next week. Minions on every night. Come join us. It's always a good time. But for tonight, Zoo's closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night.